So this is my Canyon Grizl, and over the last few months I've been riding it quite a bit, which is brilliant, but I have absolutely neglected it in terms of maintenance. Sure, I've been washing it, but I haven't really paid any attention to consumables and how much life they have left in them. So today I'm going to be having a good look through this bike, changing what needs changing and what I've got, and having a look at the rest of the stuff just to sort of see what things I should be looking at. I've got a few gravel races coming up in the next few weeks. So I want to make sure that the bike is not going to let me down. The first area that requires attention is this back tyre. Now I'm not sure if you can see there or not, but it's not actually seated on the rim properly. And the reason it's not seated on the rim properly is because I recently went on holiday to the New Forest, gravel cycling, punctured, and I wasn't able to fix it. So I had to fit an inner tube, which the inner tube was a bit too small for the tyre, so it's not been pushing the tyre up properly. Anyway, regardless, I can't go on with an inner tube in the tyre off, so that's not good for off-road. So I need to get the tyre off. I'm going to replace the tyre now because I have had this tyre on for a few months and it has got a few holes in it. So a couple of plugs and a couple of punctures that have sealed. It's probably about due. When I bought the Thunderbolts, I did buy 3, so I might as well put this one on. I've got it, that's why I bought it as a spare. The front one isn't that worn, and I have got a few gravel events in the next few weeks that I think, well, these are probably a sensible decision for it, I think. So I'm going to give them another go. I'm not going to write them off just because I've had one poor experience with them. I think I need to give them a second chance. So I need to take the wheel off, tyre off, I need to find the tubeless valve, refit tyre, refill sealant. Let's get stuck in. I don't require any assistance, thank you. I'm all right, thanks very much. Now Liz will be happy I'm doing this outside, but perhaps not so happy I'm doing it on the patio table, but you know, can't have it all, can you? Right, let the tyre down. You can see the plugs in it. Let's see if it's gonna focus on that, there you go. But I never found the, well, another one there. I never found the hole that I couldn't seal, but it's almost not worth it now. I'll just, because I know I'm swapping the tyre anyway, it's not really the end of the world. Just pop the bead. I know Schwalbe get mixed reviews both on and off road, and that's, I guess, just, you know, nature of the beast with tyres. Some people have good experiences, some people have bad. I really like how they are to fit and to take off. I find them really easy. Well, these ones on these wheels in particular, so that's my opinion. I did want to reuse this inner tube, but I'm not sure I can clean that up. I'll give it a rinse out and see what it comes up like. Now, when I've got the tyre off, I'm just going to take the opportunity to clean up the wheel. Some of the sealant will have dried up. Most of it is still wet, so, you know, it'd be fine to just refill it and refit it, but given that it's off and the tyre's off, you might as well give it a good clean up and just make sure you're not carrying around loads of clunked up sealant. And I think I've just found out why this tyre would not stay up. So that is the valve hole. There, you see the valve underneath, the hole underneath. That is a hole in the rim tape, which is not a valve hole. That just goes into the wheel. I wonder if I did that when I plugged the tyre, if I went straight through into the rim tape. And I even said on the video when I did it, be careful not to go through into the rim tape. Maybe I did. New rim tape needed. And that has just saved me refitting the tyre, trying to reinflate it, wondering why it won't hold air. Still having a good look at it through cleaning it up. Okay then, rim tape off. Thanks to Jono at Veta Wheels, I do have some spare rim tape that he gave me a while ago. I don't know what type it is, it's yellow, and he says it's good. So obviously not good when I stab it with a tubeless dart, but good otherwise. I haven't actually made a video specifically about these yet, but look how wide these are. I think they're 42mm external and like a 35 or 36 internal, something like that. Super wide, basically. Great for mountain bike tyres. Just waiting on Veta coming up with a, well, they've got a name for them, but it's not the TriathlonDan range as I asked them to be because they're wide. But yeah, I think when they're ready to launch them a bit more, I'll make a specific video. But I've been using them a few months now and absolutely fine. I think with wider tyres and when you've got the clearance, a no-brainer to run a, you know, super wide wheel. And we see that in like the, you know, in the gravel world, everything's getting wider and wider, isn't it? So I've really enjoyed these so far, and I'm pretty sure now I'd never go back to running a, you know, narrower wheel off-road. Oh, and they're hooked wheels. I don't actually use any hookless wheels, just a bit paranoid about them falling off and me breaking my face on the ground, but yeah, hooked. There's a lot less mental stress as well when you're looking at, oh, what tyres can I run, what pressure can I run, all that sort of stuff. If you've got a hooked rim, you can just run whatever you want, so I'm going to stick with that. Don't tell Liz I'm using the kitchen scissors. I tend to double up the tape on the bit around the valve. I just think it gives it a bit more, I don't know, support when you're putting a valve in and out sometimes. Whether that's a thing or not, I don't know, but you've got to start and finish somewhere. And then the most important thing I find is the tension. So getting this not super tight, but definitely, you know, taut. And because this tape is like the exact width of the wheel, I don't have to faff around spreading it out or anything. It's just going to fit in nicely.
I'm still holding on to the opposite end. I think by now I could let go of it, but I just don't want it to slip and have to start this again. So now I'm about a few inches over where I started. Let's just do a little cut. I don't know why I don't do a straight cut. Seems to always be like that, but you know. Now I know that's all tension, but I'm just going to go around with my fingers and just make sure that it's got a good like seal against the wheel. I'm not trying to push it down too much in the middle. Definitely just get it even, get it spread out a bit, and just like, you know, touching the wheel in all areas. And what will happen is when you put sealant in, when you put pressure in, it will fill out properly. So you don't need to lose too much sleep over this. Just get it down into the wheel. And I find you're never going to get it like fully like smooth against the wheel. It'll be a little bit loose in places, but when you put that pressure in, it will then like form the proper shape. And then fitting the valve, what John at Vetus has to do is to fit these ones up rather than pushing it down. So I will do as the boss says. So go up from the center of the rim, through the tape, through the hole we just made. It might have to make the hole a little bit bigger. Yeah, well. That tape essentially just sits up around the valve, so just form a good seal when you put the seal on. Tension that up nicely. Doesn't need to be like overly tight, but again, just so it gets a good seal down into the rim. That's tight enough, and obviously the sealant will go around and will seal any tiny little leaks there are. So these are the Schwalbe Thunderbolts 2.1 in the Super Ground compound, which is the fastest one. They do a super race, which is actually slower according to testing than the super ground. So we'll just do what Dylan Johnson says, hey. Now in terms of injecting sealant, people do this differently, I know. So what I tend to do is fit the tyre fully and then just get a tyre lever, crack the side of it open, then pour the sealant in. You can with this Silka version 2, supposed to be able to inject it through the valve, but I've got these like high flow valves that I'm not going to remove the core of. I don't think the cores are removable actually, so I'm just going to put them into the tyre. I think that's an easier way for me to do it. And we'll try and inflate it without an air shot and see if that sorts it. So I've lost my Silka like filler thing, so I've got like a 40mm bottle of what did have stand sealant in. It hasn't anymore, it's empty. So all I do is I just fill this up with this and then tip that into the wheel. In terms of how much sealant, I tend to put 80mm in these 2.1 tyres. I think that's enough without going overboard, and it just means that I can measure it out in 2 of these. It's 40mm each. All right, I need to do some serious tidying up in a minute, but let's try and seat this without using an air shot. I've had mixed experiences with this. Sometimes you need to get the shot out to go and pop it, but just use a little electric pump, see how I get on. Come on. Right, so now it appears to be seated. I'll just give it a good spin round and get that sealant all on the inside. It's easier to do this putting it in the bike than to spin it around obviously on the bike, but just to get it, try and get it as seated as we can. And again, then when I spin it, I just look at it, just try and make sure the tyre is properly seated. You see there's no bumps or anything, so it is seated all the way around. That's actually really good. I'm happy with that. Just give us a white, in fact, it's a hose down. Rinse down, job done and dusted. Now this will need a good ride to get it properly seated and properly sealed. You need to roll it over some rough terrain, give it a good shake around. So I wouldn't be surprised to come back to this later today and it'd be flat. I'm gonna try and keep an eye on it, but yeah, it just needs that little decent ride just to get sealant everywhere. You know, drop it around on the floor around you and spin it around, but I find it never just does it as good as just getting out for a ride. Next up is the bar tape, and it is in a sorry state of repair. So firstly, you know, I've stacked this bike a couple of times, so a couple of scuffs on the outside that have just led to holes. It's actually worked loose as well, so there are a couple of gaps in the bar tape on the base bar. On the top though, on both sides, it has worn quite heavily, and I think this is just because of off-road riding. It's obviously quite bumpy. I tend to ride quite loose-handed. I don't wear gloves ever on a bike, so I find that I have to ride loose, otherwise my hands get sore. And I think that just means that I rub against the top and then it eventually wears through, so it's not a problem. It just means I have to swap a bar tape, and this has been on here a few months now. I do like the Canyon stuff. I've replaced it a couple of times with the Canyon stuff, but it's always fallen when I've been buying other things from Canyon, so I don't have to fork out for the delivery fee just for one thing. I'm not buying anything else from Canyon at the minute, so I have some Lifeline bar tape, can't go wrong. It says £18 on the back, gel bar tape. I very much doubt I paid £18 for it. I think I'd have got this on like a, you know, Wiggle closing down sale sort of thing. I've had it in the house for a while, so either way, I'm sure it's going to be better than bar tape with holes and gaps in it, so let's get it fitted. I know this would be easier to do without the clip-on bars on, but I'm riding this tomorrow and I need the clip-on bars on for tomorrow's ride, so I'm not taking them off just to put them back on again. Okay. And it just means now that when I refit the tape, I can fit it and know that there's enough space for the clip-on bars. I don't have to squeeze it in like I did last time I did this. I know some people as well on gravel go for like a double wrap or double wrap on the tops or something. I don't do that just because I find that I get quite a compliant ride just through the tyres and tyre pressure. I don't need to go to extremes of, you know, extreme hand comfort. I think if I was getting a lot of shock and vibration through my hands, then I should probably look at my setup, because there's clearly a lot of force going through places, and that'll just mean you're going to get punctures. Why have to do this on the windiest day known to man? Finally then, and probably most importantly, drivetrain, so the chain. Now I know I haven't looked at any bearings or anything, it's all absolutely fine, I'm not looking at it, nothing's grinding, nothing's making any noises, so I'm going to leave it as is. This is something I should be all over. I do partner with NRG chains, so I've got no excuses of having a worn drivetrain or dirty drivetrain, etc. This is a Park Tool chain measurement tool. You hook those first two bits in there, and then depending on how far this bit slots into the chain, there's different like little lips. I think it's 0.5, 0.75 and 1 mil. Shows you how stretched the chain is, and I think you should swap it after 0.5. 0.5 is the second one down. It, it just drops all the way in, absolutely no problem. So that means that that is above 1, that is well and truly done for. Now when you change chain though, you have to think about other components as well. So the chain ring has only been on a few months, I'm not too worried about that, and because it's like big teeth, it's not really going to start slipping if it was, you know, a bit different wear rate to the chain. The cassette, however, it's more likely the cassette will start skipping if the cassette is worn and you put a new chain on. This is, however, a relatively new cassette. Because I've been swapping the wheels around and stuff in the last few weeks, I end up with a new cassette on this wheel, and that's what's then prompted me to notice the shifting isn't quite as good and it's a bit sloppy. So I'm going to get this chain off. Thanks to NRG Chains for hooking me up with a training chain. This is a YBN 12-speed chain. It's supposed to be faster than the flat top chain, so you know, whether it is or not, it doesn't really make a massive difference to me, but in terms of like just the wear rate and so on, they're probably similar, and I think it's quite cool to have a non-flat top chain on a SRAM drivetrain. You're a bit different. And this is obviously fully waxed, so I'll definitely use this for the first 300-400 miles or so without having to wash it or anything. That'd be great. And there is a link and a code in the description down below if you want to pick yourself up anything from NRG Chains. Thanks for the support. Promise I'll change it more regularly in future. Just to reiterate, the bottom bracket is absolutely fine. It's amazing. I've SRAM dub on a few bikes now, and I have no problems on other bikes, road bikes, but the one that I trash off-road is absolutely mint, so I'm not going to mess with it. Right, the chain is broken. What I'll do now is just measure it versus my new chain so that it is the same length. I'm actually using as well the chain breaker on my multi-tool. I haven't used it in a while. I think it's important to use the stuff that you're going to rely on when you're out and about every now and again. So whilst I've got a bigger chain breaker that I normally use in the house and stuff, just testing that I know how to use this and that it all works and so on is time well spent, I think, because if I'm out on the trails and I need to do this for any reason, then I remember how to use it and it works absolutely fine. So just get it up, lined up right, and then just give it a tap, and then the quick link snapped into place fine. Then because it's wax, it'll just need a few minutes running in, and then it'll run absolutely smooth. It'll be a bit clunky to start, but there we go. A couple of hours of maintenance done on the gravel bike. Hopefully good for many more miles to come. Got some sealant to clean off there. But yeah, in a nutshell, that is pretty much ready to roll.